Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you made it to this video, that means you are on part 2 of the Batmaning of. How many parts is there going to be, you might be asking? I don't know. Let's see how well these do. And we talked about The Flash in the last episode. You know, let's get Jack Quaid in there to play him, an Edgar Wright film director doing that stuff. In this episode of the Batmaning of, we're jumping into what some would consider the nice version, the super fun, super lighthearted version of Batman in Green Arrow. So for this rendition of the Batmaning of, we're jumping into the world of Oliver Queen and talking about Green Arrow. Green Arrow. This is one I knew I was going to do from the beginning because everyone's got their thoughts and opinions on how to make a good Green Arrow movie. When it comes to the Batmaning of, we're looking at the tone, the style, the filmmaking that is the Batman movie and applying that to other characters in the DC universe. And when it comes to Green Arrow, this is one of the first times where I think any and all styles could actually apply to how you tell this character. He is your everyman. And by everyman, I don't mean like, oh, Oliver Queen can represent any space in any world, but he can just become anything you need him to be. You want to make a dark and gritty story with Oliver Queen? You can. You want to make a lighthearted romper? You can. You want to make him the pseudo-political liberal figure who's kind of like yelling at the older generation like, hey, you guys are doing stuff wrong? You can do that. Oliver Queen and his Green Arrow can literally become anything and all of this stuff you want him to. And that's such a unique thing for characters, especially in the DC universe where everybody is so distinctively one thing. When we talked about The Flash, I talked about how he best works in this kind of campy, vintage, classic timeline of the Silver Age. Oliver Queen is not like that. You can place this man in any single time period, whether it be his debut time in the 40s all the way up to the modern era, and he could always be opposing the authority in a different way. He is that kind of character that could chameleon his way into any type of storyline. That's why it was super fun and interesting to try to find the right balance of how you're going to tell a Green Arrow story in contrast to the other characters in the DC universe. It's such a unique experience because you can go anywhere with it. And Oliver Queen is one of those characters who could become anything and should be represented of anything. I really enjoy Oliver Queen as a character. I think when he is done right, he is this kind of interesting figure in the DC universe. Essentially, and of course it goes to the costume, he's your Robin Hood figure. He is this guy that's going to make the right choices. Maybe some of them are going to be shady or wrong, but at the end of the day, he's going to do right by the people of the world or whoever he's helping. He's going to oppose authority. If the Justice League is doing something silly that he doesn't agree with, it's like, hey, the public opinion is against us on this. You guys are wrong for thinking this way. Oliver Queen is going to be the voice of reason that goes against that. And that's such a unique experience to see inside this world. And it makes him such a stable and interesting character that could really do anything. It's really fun to find the right balance between those and do something creative with a character like Oliver Queen. Everyone knows what they're doing. This film's been in development forever, and nobody really figured out how to make that bridge work and make it balance. And in contrast to Batman, the key thing is he likes what he's doing, and it's not like about vengeance or anything to him. It's about helping. He is here to be the hero. He's here to be a good man. He's not always going to be like the superhero like the Flash or Superman, but he's going to do the right thing. Even if it's the wrong thing at the time, it's going to lead to the right thing in the end. And that's a key element that could be ignored by his character, but he is the Robin Hood archetype. It's just how things go. That's just who he is. And honestly, when it comes to most characters I think we'll be talking about in this video, I really like Green Arrow more than most of them just because he is that voice that you find in this world that is just something so particular and distinctive. He, to me, is DC's version of Danny Rand Iron Fist, where it's this billionaire guy who knows exactly what to do with his wealth to help the little man and do the right thing in the end. That is something I always like in a character like this, and it makes Green Arrow somebody I've always enjoyed reading. I do not have a particularly favorite Green Arrow story. I think they're all good or bad depending on what you want. I just think when you're doing this character, you have to find that right tone of distinctive from Batman and friendly to the world. The world's not afraid of him. The world laughs with him. They don't laugh at him. They laugh at his side and enjoy his company. We look at the other actors that have played Green Arrow in previous installments. It's a very interesting mixed bag. At first, we have Justin Hartley, who did the character for a couple seasons on Smallville. And he did really good. He had the right energy, the right vibe. He was a little CW-ish for my liking, but that's just going to happen no matter what you do with any of these characters. They're going to be stuck in that loophole and be forced into that world, especially when it is the CW stuff. But his costume was great. His actions were great. He was really fun. Too bad he ended up with like the girl that, ran a sex cult. That's kind of sucky, but whatever. And then we have probably the definitive version of Green Arrow for a lot of people in Arrow. This is a good version. Stephen Amell on paper is a fantastic choice for this role because he's got the look, he's got the smile, he's got the swagger. But then they just went ahead and made him Batman. Literally to the point where he's fighting Batman and villains, doing Batman things, building his own Batman family. It really took away from what could make that character special and creative and became this really just stale performance of a guy who didn't go anywhere. And much like when we talked about Grant Gustin, when it comes to Stephen Amell's performance, you have done everything you could with it. So there's nothing new to add to that world. There's nothing interesting you can take. No chances that could really be explored with him. But I get it. You did 8 years of this character. What else could you really do? It's hard to find that balance, especially when you're trapped in the CW bubble. So when it comes to making the Green Arrow movie, what direction am I looking to take for this? Well, I talked about this kind of in the last one. The Batman's tone was perfect for Bruce Wayne in that era. When we're looking at a younger, kind of fresher-faced Green Arrow, I want to go in the opposite direction of what the Batman did. It's this gripping noir thriller that's kind of like a mix of, Chinatown and these dark themes. What's the opposite of that? What's like a crime story that's the opposite of dark noir? Robin Hood. And so I wanted to go back to the ultimate Robin Hood film, The Adventures of Robin Hood, starring Errol Flynn. Because that's the energy I want to find for my Oliver Queen. I want to find a man who's willing to jump off buildings, swing through rooftops, just go into people's houses and be like, hey, I'm here to help you. What do you want me to do? Just that kind of positive energy that you don't see from Batman, where Bruce Wayne is stiff and his motivations are stiff. Oliver Queen is loose. He's fun. He's flying through the city, helping people the best way he can. So I wanted to mix that with this idea of a romantic comedy. No specific romantic comedy, just because I love the idea of romance in comic books, and I want to see that more presented on screen. So when it comes to making the ultimate Green Arrow movie, it's a rom-com mixed of Errol Flynn. You get both of those things clashing in here to make the ultimate love letter to a Green Arrow story. A little bit vintage, but in the modern era, it's kind of silly, cheesy, but that's the character. When we see Indiana Jones' hat just swoop back to him in The Last Crusade, that's the vibe I want to go for here. Where it's just, it doesn't have to make sense, we're just seeing cool people doing cool stuff. So, what exactly is my plot for this Green Arrow movie? I was trying to think about this one for a long time. When it came to The Flash, I knew right away what my vibe was going to be. I knew right away what we were going to do. But when it was Green Arrow, I was like, you have to find the right balance between this is chaotic to this is perfectly executed. So my idea for Green Arrow was the villain is going to be Cupid. I think she represents the perfect thing we don't see a lot of in comic book villains. She's a woman. She is kind of the opposite to Green Arrow in terms of her fighting style. And she represents just like that love-scorned lover. So my idea here is just a young Oliver Queen trying to break out of the shadow of his family and his organization. He's coming into the world. He's like, hey, I'm here. I want to help the people of Starling City. I want to do the right thing. What are we going to do about that? And as he is the public face of Oliver Queen, he's being hunted and targeted by this assassin known as Cupid. And she is coming after him when he's Oliver Queen, but when Oliver Queen becomes Green Arrow, he's going after her. All the while, he's trying to court a young female superhero by the name of Dinah Lance, who is also known as Black Canary. It's a love triangle thing in the weirdest kind of pseudo love triangle thing you could get. Oliver Queen is being targeted by Cupid. Cupid's being targeted by Green Arrow. Green Arrow's trying to court Black Canary. Black Canary's trying to see if she's interested in Oliver. It's just all of this interesting love scorn stuff coming together in this beautiful just drama of just people figuring out their life. It's a little silly, but also can go to those dark places. This is a woman who you could say is scorned by her lover, and she's targeting Oliver Queen because maybe Oliver Queen and Cupid used to date, and he doesn't remember being with somebody like her. Now he's trying to figure oh, how do I please this new girl I want to get with, who I love, when my ex-lover's trying to ruin my life, all the while maintaining the identity of the public persona of Oliver Queen while being the vigilante Green Arrow. It's insane. It's Errol Flynn. It's a lot going on, but that is just who Green Arrow is. A guy struggling to maintain that identity. A guy going along with the motions while realizing, oh, I messed up. How am I going to make this situation worse or better for myself? It's simple, it's easy, and it plays to this larger picture that could be an organization working with Cupid if we wanted to do more. But if not, it's just a guy who's a superhero, and his ex is a supervillain coming after him, and he's trying to court a new superhero as well. What a fun dynamic that we don't see a lot of anymore, that has those connections to classic romance movies while still being a superhero epic. It could be something cool and fun. And when I'm trying to find the right director for something like this, you could go to all of the regular ones that you'd get, but I wanted to bring on Deborah Chow, who is currently working on a lot of the Mandalorian and a lot of the Obi-Wan Kenobi stuff over at Disney+. her style is just so distinctive, and I think just taking that into maybe a larger scope in terms of the cinematic experience as opposed to what could be actually happening in her Star Wars stuff. That is a great wheelhouse for her. It could be something creatively fun, just different to look at, have all these interesting beats and motives going on, and could make for a really cool experience that you wouldn't see before. And when it comes to an actor who I want to see play Oliver Queen, everyone's got their favorites, but to me, I wanted to pick an outside pick, so I went with Kevin Bigley. Now, if you don't know Kevin Bigley, I'm not too familiar with a lot of his work. I know him mostly as the lovable goofball from Upload. He has the right build, the right energy, that right smile that could just work perfectly. You strap a beard on that guy, you tell me that doesn't give off some Oliver Queen vibes? I think it really does. I think he'd be a great fit for a role like this. Oliver Queen is such a fun character. He's distinctive, he's unique, he can become all these things and everything all at once. It's such a creative character that goes into all these interesting places, and I want to make him that romantic swashbuckling lead. He is the guy who's going to swoop in, save the girl, get the kiss, have the fun doing it, while also being the one who's going to look at the crime going on in the city and realizing that the corrupt politicians are not doing anything about this. He is the everyman, he is the nomad, he is just the guy who can do everything and do it right and properly. And that is why I love Oliver Queen. That's why I want to make a Green Arrow film. And that's why this whole arrangement, the rom-com, the Errol Flynn, the Kevin, Deborah, they all come together to make something super original and super fun for a world involving Green Arrow. So that is going to do it for this episode of the Batmaning of. Now, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And as always, I will catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.